Lafia, Abandala, Abibi Fahudier. Peace, family. Uh, this Black Panther coming to you on this, well, it's nighttime here. I think it's afternoon in the States. But, I wanted to give this presentation for a while, something that I haven't been able to do because of my schedule, traveling, and everything like that. So I wanted to give this presentation to the people. You know my lane. You know it's always after spirituality, bringing people back to their traditions. So today we're going to be talking about energy in African traditions. That's what we're going to be talking about. My brother Kofi is in the chat room. What's going on, brother Kofi?
Alafia Ibe, Fakmu Iwa Pele, Fakmu Alafia. Peace, family.
All right. You see, you learning over there. I share. So before we get started, I want to talk about some quick things really quick. For my Facebook followers, you've probably seen me advertising the ancestral veneration books that we got for sale. I only got about, man, they've been buying them up. I think I got about 5 left. So, hit me up. The Ancestral Veneration Books is a guide to how to venerate, why to venerate, when to venerate your ancestors. So, it was written by Chief in Oyatunji. I believe you say his name is Olitan. And he's been a priest of the tradition for over 20 years. So, I first encountered the book at the Cultural Awareness Festival in South Carolina that Eleshi Ray, my Ifa Temple, put on. So I bought the book. I thought the book was vital for the community. So I bought wholesale from him to, give out to the community. Of course, at a price because I had to pay for it. But it's only $10, family, and I think it's well worth the $10. That's just my opinion. Brother Kofi, you have the book. What's your opinion on the book?
For me, man, it was a great book, man. He broke down. I like the way how he broke down, in simple forms for how to start you a Ojagoon, which is an ancestral shrine, what to put on the ancestral shrine. I like the way he broke down how to return back to our cultures and our traditions. So he gave you the different steps on how to recover your traditions and recover your cultures. It was a great read. I wish it would have been more, to the book, but it was a great read, and I advise everybody that hadn't got the book to please get the book.
All right, brother. I appreciate that. Appreciate that as always. If you want to get the book, DM me on Facebook, and we'll start the process from there. I'm taking PayPal, Cash App, and those are my two. Those are the two payment methods that I'm taking right now. Once you pay, give me your address. I'll ship the book out to you. My wife's been shipping them out. Please, family, click the friends and family option. Otherwise, you're gonna short me some money, and then I'm gonna feel some type of way. But in other news, simultaneously with this presentation, I'm going to be dropping an article. The article is called "Character: The Vital Force of African Culture and Traditions" by myself, Blak Pantha. And it's just talking about how character is the most important thing that you can develop in African traditions. Without character, you can't go far. And that's just the way our ancestors built it. That's just the way it works in our traditions. So I'm going to be dropping that on my website. My website is www.blakpantha.ser. That's blackpantherseher.com. Once again, it's www.blakpanthaser.com. So that will be on here immediately following this broadcast. It'll be on the website. So shouts out to Asar Imhotep for designing my website. And, you know, we can now, oh, one other thing before we get started. We have two new members in the Mossi Warrior Clan and possibly a third, but y'all gonna have to wait on that. That's a special guest right there. But brother Ini Harat, Sean P, new member of the Mossi Warrior Clan. Brother in the room right now, brother Kofi, new member of the Mossi Warrior Clan. Brother Kofi, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate, man. Y'all welcome me on to the Mossi Warrior Clan, man, and like son, I appreciate it because the day I got the news of the invitement, man, I was kind of going through something and feeling down, man, and I was tired, and that news just just brought me back to life, man. Brought me back to life, man. I appreciate y'all for having me on the team. I'm gonna try to do my best to hold up to the highest standards that uh, hold up to, man. So I appreciate, man, y'all for having me a part of the Mossi Warrior Clan, man. And we gonna keep busting you in the head, man, with this good information.
Absolutely, absolutely. A tactic that I learned from Brother Unk is always watch people before you bring them onto the team. So I've been watching these brothers for a while, and I felt like it was time. And I went to my ancestors, I went to the Orisha, and I asked for permission whether it was a good time, and they gave them clearance. So as I always say, if the ancestors and the Orisha say yes, then it's a yes. So shameless plug, pantherwear.com. Go get you some hats, some shoes, some shirts, some jackets, whatever you need. Pantherwear.com. Now that the shameless plug is over, let me share my screen so we can get to the presentation. Give me a minute, family. It's acting crazy. All right, here we go. Sometimes it takes a minute to come up. All right, all right, all right. And Brother Kofi, if you wouldn't mind, let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's showing.
Okay. And for the PowerPoint to load. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, it's up.
Okay. Let's get it going. The Power of Energy in African Traditions by myself, Ifadele Akinloya Egulana Adebanke, which is my Ifa name. If you can't remember that or say that, just call me Blak Pantha. And since we are the Mossi Warrior Clan, as my brother Ini Harat just coined, before we give presentations, we're going to always say, let's go to war. Okay. So what is energy? Energy is the property that must be transferred to an object in order to perform work on or to heat the object. The greatest example that we have of energy is the sun, which is the source of energy for most life on Earth. The sun is heated to high temperatures by the conversion of nuclear binding energy due to the fusion of hydrogen in its core. This energy is ultimately transferred or released out into space, mainly in the form of radiant light energy. In Africa, the world exists as a place full of energy, dynamism, and life. The holding back of chaos by harmonizing the spirit world is a principal task of the human being in keeping with nature. Now, you might ask why I put that at the end of this slide. Because the harmonizing of the spirit in the African traditions, it must take energy. If you recall, the first line says it's a property that must be transferred to an object in order to perform work. Harmonizing the spirit in the world in the African tradition is work. Keeping and harmonizing power and being with nature is work. Therefore, it takes energy. So what are some different types of energy? We have kinetic energy. It's of an object, is the energy that possesses due to its motion. It is defined as the work needed to accelerate a body of a given mass from rest to its stated velocity. So a great example that just came in my head is the Magi. When they use the bow and arrow. The bow and arrow is an example of potential and kinetic energy, actually. But when that string pulls forward for that arrow, that's that kinetic energy being released. When it's being charged up, that's the potential energy, which we're going to go into right now. Potential energy is possessed by an object because of its position relative to other objects, stresses within itself, its electrical charge, or other factors. Electrostatic potential energy is the energy of an electrical charged particle at rest in an electrical field. And we should all know, as science enthusiasts, that we live amongst electrical fields all the time. Thermal energy. Thermal energy refers to the internal energy present in a system due to its temperature. The concept is not well defined or broadly accepted in physics or thermodynamics because the internal energy can be changed without changing the temperature. And there is no way to distinguish which part of the system's internal energy is thermal. Sound waves. Sound waves, kinetic and potential energy in a fluid due to a sound propagated wave or a particular form of a mechanical wave. A photon is a type of elementary particle, the quantum of electromagnetic field, including the electromagnetic radiation, such as light, and the force carrier for the electromagnetic force, even when static via virtual particles. The photon has zero rest mass and always moves at the speed of light within a vacuum. Now, I said all that to say the universe is vibrating energy. So I gave you different examples of the energy that surrounds us every single day. Whether we know it, whether we don't know it, whether we can feel it, whether we can't feel it, it's all around us. It is all interacting with us, whether we're conscious of it or not. According to the string theory, every particle in the universe at its most microscopic level, or what they call Planck length, consists of various combinations of vibrating strings or strands with preferred patterns of vibration. So every one of these strings and patterns has a preferred pattern of vibration. So you always hear people say, you need to raise your vibrations. You know, you need to up your vibration. Don't be on a low vibration. Well, this says that everything has a different pattern of vibration, including us. So the next time somebody asks you to raise your vibration, ask them, how do you know whether the low or high vibration is required for what I need to do? They probably don't know the answer to that because everything doesn't take a high vibration. Some things take low vibrations. So that's just something that, you can ask them next time to get the pseudos off of you. String theory further claims that it is through these specific oscillatory patterns of strings that a particle of unique mass and force charge is created. That is to say, the electron is a type of string that vibrates one way, while the up quark is a type of string vibrating another way, and so on and so forth. So everything that we can see in our foreseeable universe is vibrating at a frequency. What frequency that is, we have to determine through testing. And these are some examples, you know, magnetic fields, quantum fields, subatomic particles. These are things that are around us every single day, and they are all vibrating according to this theory in a specific pattern. Energy waves. In physics, electromagnetic radiation, or EMR, refers to the waves or their quantum photons of the electromagnetic field, propagating, radiating through space and time, carrying electromagnetic radiant energy. It includes radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet light, X rays, and gamma rays. So I put this in here because this is another example of how energy is all around us. When you're microwaving that hot dog that you got from Sub Dogs, and you want to put it in the microwave to get it hot again, you're exposing yourself to different type of energy waves. So energy is so important to Africans because we take it for granted in the Western world. We have all these machines that emit energy, but we don't know how energy plays a big part in our culture, and I'll explain that later. The universe speaks to us in waves. Everything we see in nature is a result of a different energy wave, reacting in a certain manner. Sound is readily dividable into two simple instruments, pressure and time. Remember pressure and time. These fundamental elements form a basis for all sound waves. They can be used to describe, in absolute terms, every sound we hear. So this is an example of how important energy is. The energy carried by an oscillating sound waves converts back and forth between the potential energy of the extra compression in case of a longitude wave, or in a lateral displacement strain in the case of transverse waves, of the matter and the kinetic energy of the displacement velocity of particles of the medium. As complicated as that sounds, these different things are around us and even pass through us every day. And as hard as it may be to believe, Africans described some of these energies thousands of years ago before modern science did. So one thing you hear about in the community, dark matter. Oh, well, you know, we jump high because of dark matter, or you know, we get hot really fast because of dark matter and black body radiation and all these other claims you hear. But I wanted you to get a concept of what dark matter was from an expert. So watch this short video.
The question isn't about whether dark matter exists or not. What's going on is when we measure gravity in the universe, the collective gravity of the stars, the planets, the moons, the gas clouds, the black holes, the whole galaxy, when we do this, 85% has no known origin. So it's not a matter of whether dark matter exists or not. It's a measurement, period. Now, dark matter is not even what we should be calling it, because that implies that it's matter. It implies we know something about it that we actually don't. So a more precise labeling for it would be dark gravity. Now, if I called it dark gravity, are you going to say, does dark gravity really exist? I'd say, yeah, because 85% of the gravity has no known origin. There it is. Let's figure out what's causing it. The fact that the word matter got into that word is forcing people to, well, I have another idea. I bet it's not matter. It could be something else. We're overreacting to a label that overstates our actual insights or knowledge into what it is we're describing. Then I just joke we should just call it Fred or Wilma, something where there is no reference to what we think it is, because in fact We have no idea. So here's how you actually measure the stuff. In a galaxy, which is the smallest aggregation of matter where dark matter manifests. So you look how fast it's rotating, and we know from laws of gravity, first laid down by Johannes Kepler, and then enhanced and given further detail and deeper understanding by Isaac Newton. You write down these equations, say, oh, look how fast it's rotating. Invoke that rotation rate in the equation, and out the other side says how much gravity, how much mass should be there attracting you. And the more mass that's there, the faster we expect you to be orbiting. That kind of makes sense. So when you do this calculation on a galactic scale, we get vastly more mass attracting you than we actually can detect. I'm adding up the stars, gas clouds, moons, planets, black holes. Add it all up. It's a fraction of what we know is attracting you in this orbit. And we cannot detect the rest. And so we hand it this title, dark matter. Understandably, I suppose, but it implies that we know that it's matter, but we don't. We know we can't detect it in any known way, and we know it has gravity. So it really should be called dark gravity. I think the over-under on what dark matter might be today, I think we're all kind of leaning towards a family of particles, subatomic particles, that have hardly any ability to interact with the particles we have come to know and love, quote, ordinary matter. And that would make it matter, dark matter, as we've all been describing it. And it's not a weird thing that you could have a particle that doesn't interact with our particles within our own family of particles. There are examples where the interaction is very weak or non-existent. You might have heard of neutrinos. This is a ghost-like particle that permeates the universe and hardly interacts with familiar matter at all. Yet it is part of our family of particles that we know exist and that we can detect and interact with. So if we can have an elusive particle that's part of our own familiar family of particles, it's not much of a stretch to think of a whole other category where them give a rat's ass about the rest of us, and they just pass right through us as though we're not even there. Now, here's what's interesting about dark matter. We know it doesn't interact with us, except gravitationally. By the way, what do I mean by interact? Does it bind and make atoms and molecules and solid objects? No, it does not interact with us in any important known way. But it also doesn't interact with itself. That's what's interesting. So if it interacted with itself, you can imagine finding dark matter planets, dark matter galaxies. Because to interact with yourself is what allows you to accumulate and have a concentration of matter in one place versus another. These are the atomic bonds and the molecular bonds that create solid objects. And if particles do not interact with one another, they just pass through, you just have this zone of mass, not really doing anything interesting. So dark matter not only doesn't interact with us, it doesn't interact with itself. And that's why when we find dark matter across the universe, it's very diffusely spread out. It's like over here. It's not in this one spot and look at this concentration. No, it's not how that works. An example of this, what is a rock? It's a collection of molecules that are stuck together by electromagnetic forces. We don't think of them that way. We just think of them as rocks. But they are held together by forces on the atomic and molecular scale. And they bind together, and then we get what we call the solid object called a rock. If those forces did not work on you as a particle, You have no occasion to bind with any other particle. You have no occasion, you have no ambitions of ever becoming a solid object. It's a different kind of world that would be. We would not expect that world to have life as we know it, because life requires an assembly of molecules to turn it into some separate entity distinct from everything else that then has fascinating chemical properties that we call life.
All right. In case you didn't catch all that high-tech scientific stuff, two things I want to point out of what Neil deGrasse Tyson said. He said the only way that we calculate dark matter is using math. He's calculating, the rotations, the stars, the planets, the moons, the gases. None of that which would be possible without the Rhine mathematical papyrus from our brothers in Kemet. The second thing I want to point out is he said that this energy not only doesn't interact with us, it doesn't interact with itself. To me, it reminds me of the creation stories you hear when you hear Amen. When you hear Amen talk about, I existed and I was existence myself and I created myself and existence didn't exist until I created it. When you hear him talk about that and you think about dark matter, it's a similar narrative. It's a very similar narrative when they talk about the hidden one. Dark matter is certainly hidden from us. And the only way that we discovered it was through the math from our ancient brothers in Kemet. So that's part of how energy is used in African tradition. Energy is also enamored in our myths so that we can tell stories about energy so that everybody can understand it. So moving on, what is the purpose of energy in African traditions? Excuse me. Africans in their traditional systems use the concept of energy in multiple fashions and ritualistic aspects. Africans used an archetype model to name, associate characteristics to their deities. It can be argued that all African deities are natural expressions of energy, from rivers to fire to thunder. In traditional African systems, spirit is energy and energy is God. Matter, time, and existence are all important characteristics that Africans associate with God. All of these are forms that require energy. So, when you talk about Shango, fire and thunder, you talk about Yemoja with the originally lakes turned to rivers, or Lokun, oceans. All of these are forms of energy. All deities within the African paradigm are linked to some type of energy. And energy is what they're describing when they describe spirit. And ultimately, that spirit is what they call their creator, or the Western term God. And I'll go into more detailed account later. Even the concept of reincarnation is supported by the law of conservation of energy within thermodynamics, which states that energy can never be created nor destroyed. However, energy can change forms and energy can flow from one place to the other. A particular consequence of the law of conservation of energy is that the total energy of an isolated system does not change. It also states that total energy of an isolated system remains constant. It is said to be conserved over time. So what does that mean? That means that the energy inside of our body that we call in the Ifa tradition Ashe, the Ashe in our body is everlasting. It's just going to change form when we shed this physical skin. So you heard it say it is to be conserved over time. The question is, conserved in what state and where? Because we know that the energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So these are concepts our ancestors figured out a long time ago. African conceptualizations, colors are reflective of specific life forces and as such are often relied on for furthermore utilized in the manipulation of cosmic energy. Colors in African tradition often represent something cosmic. It isn't just red. It isn't just blue. There's always an energy associated with those colors. The Africans' view on energy. Everything is predicated on natural law and a vital force that permeates all. Now, when I use this term oracle, I'm not necessarily talking about a person. An oracle can just be a body of knowledge that you use to express your natural culture within your tradition. And that's more the way I'm using it here. The oracle expresses the dance of natural law, vital force, and its expression in the outer world. In nature, there are two forces of energy. One is potential, which allows energy to be stored up and reserved, and one is kinetic, which allows energy to be outwardly expressed. These forces can also be described as active and receptive, assertive and yielding, even yin and yang. Everything is first birthed out of darkness, and this darkness is sometimes called the womb of existence. This womb gave the potential and kinetic energy. These are expressed as complementary opposites. You'll hear Ashwa Kwesi talk about the law of dialectical opposites in Kemet. These are neither good nor bad. They are natural expressions of creation. In Ifa, it is the Iji Ogbe, expansive light energy, and Oyeku, dark energy, that gives us the balance that creates life. So let me explain this slide because this is a very important slide. This slide is basically talking about two types of energy that permeate throughout the universe. That is basically what we call good and evil, dark and light, yin and yang, whatever you want to call it. It's basically just acceptive and receptive. So this is the basics for binary code. Binary code is what goes into your computer when you hit a command that says 1 for yes and 0 for no. It's the same way that they use in divination with the old Pele chain in Ifa. One stroke for yes, 2 strokes for no. This is the exact same system, the push and the pull, the give and receive. The one is yes, the one is no. One is light, one is dark. And these forces are in a never yielding battle of a push, pull, contract, and expand relationship. And that's their purpose as this energy on this earth from an African perspective. Spirit and energy equivalent. The etymology of spirit is the most telling of its African origins. The etymology of the word spirit says animating or vital principle in man and animals. From the Anglo-French spirit, Old French esprit, spirit soul, and directly from the Latin spiritus, a breathing respiration of the wind, breath of a god, hence inspiration, breath of life, hence life. Now, I wish Brother Asari Motep was here because he's probably jumping up and down because he's been saying this for a while. Now, when it says the vital principle in man and animals, in Ifa, we call that Ashe. In fact, that's the very definition of Ashe from a energy perspective. Not only that, when they talk about the breath of God, the breath of life, we're talking about life here, right? So in Kemet, life is the Ankh. And Brother Asar has already broken down how the Ankh is not the womb, but the Ankh is the chest cavity with the shoulder blades. And the chest cavity with the shoulder blades houses the breath of life. So this is how you link the spirit to the energy in its African equivalent. It's all in the language. And as Brother Asar says, the language is the DNA of the people. outside of their body, so to speak. I'm sorry, DNA of the culture. That's what he says. The only thing we can measure and test that animates men and animals is energy. That's what we can test. We can measure that. That's a testable element in our world. The Ba from ancient Kemet is essentially a person's breath of life, an invisible source of energy. As the breath of life, the Ba is a person's vital force, the activating life force of their being. Spirit is active energy and consciousness. Africans call this energy a multitude of things, and I have some examples at the bottom: Ashe, Ba, and or Heka, which comes from ancient Kemet, which some people translate to power. Energy and the creator. The creator is described in many different ways in African traditions. The mother, the sky, time, existence, the sun, etc. All of these forces occur naturally in nature and are representative of what we can be described as divine energy. For example, Ra, being the sun, that gives you your food, clothing, and shelter. Divine energy. In the African system of Ifa, the creator Oludumare is described as an overflowing fountain of energy. This alludes to the energy being infinite and everywhere. Nyambi, in the Okon tradition of Ghana, is the energy that animates from the creator and flows throughout the universe. So the Africans are describing their creators as an overpowering force of energy that is everywhere and in everything. So Africans link energy and the creator. So these are types of energies in African traditions. You have Ashe, Ofoshe, Kalunga, Bantu V, Simba Simbi, Oro, Ila, Chi, Heka, Neb Ankh. And I'm going to go through each of these. So Ashe, you hear this word all throughout the conscious community, right? People just say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Hey man, I found $5 today. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. But what is it really? The word Ashe in the Yoruba is a word that means it is manifested or it is done. It is used in a similar way that Amen or Amen is used in the Christian theology. But Ashe is so much more than just a word that means it's done. Ashe is also the invisible substance that was present at the beginning of creation, the cosmic force enabling creativity and enhancing consciousness. It is the energy that all living things on the planet possess. This energy is a life force energy that can change from potential to kinetic to even chemical given the right circumstance. Ashe has been defined as a combination of grace and power. Ashe is essentially God itself. Everything that is shared in that divine essence as a result, sacred. Ashe is a fluid concept in that it bridges the space between the seen and unseen worlds. It exists in all things, yet it can be active or a passive force. Ashe is always present and cannot be destroyed. So I hope I give you a more comprehensive view on Ashe. So the next time you hear it, you'll think about it with a little more reverence, a little more respect, a little more power, because Ashe isn't just something that we throw around. And another thing, Ashe is in the Yoruba tradition. It's not Medu Neter, because I see some people think that. So I just want to throw that out there. Ashe is a Yoruba word of the Ifa tradition. Ofoshe. Ofoshe, sometimes spelled with an A, is the energy produced when speaking, the vibrating frequency of words. This is a concept you have heard before. Power of the tongue, you're all bad like that, it's gonna mess around and happen. She, whether she knows it or not, she's referring to Ofoshe. The speech pitch notation is a system which defines the speech frequencies of particular pitches within human speech. Scientific pitch is an absolute concert pitch standard, which is based on the model C4 being set at 256 hertz. So science has done the work for us and let us know that the vibrating frequency of words actually exists. It actually produces a frequency, 256 hertz. Through these scientific systems, they have confirmed what the Africans have been saying for thousands of years. There's a frequency speaking, and Africans hold that sacred. So much that we watch what we say and watch what we produce with this energy. In other words, like your mama used to say, watch what you say. In West Africa, the Dogon people of Mali believe that the African concept of nomo, the power of the spoken word, carries an energy that produces all life and influences everything from destiny to the naming of children. By human utterance or through the spoken word, human beings can invoke that spiritual power. Nomo, the generative power of the spoken word, is the force that gives life to everything in the Dogon tradition. So this is another example of how Africans hold the power of the tongue sacred. African classical texts with the same idea of using words to impart energy, to change forms, shapes, and conditions, and to make work easier. Nomo is originally one with God. As such, it is a spiritual form. Once humans express the spoken word, they are using proportions or portions of God's energy. But it is the nomo practice, the announcing aloud of a name, that transformative energy is released. So there's an old African proverb that you can find in Yusuf Biti by Sari Motep, where he says, when you speak someone's name, and I believe it's the Bakongo tradition, that you are calling that person to come forth. So that we have that tradition in America. We say, we talked you up about somebody and they come around the corner. Hey, we was just talking about you. Well, in African traditions, that is the power of the tongue, the frequency and the energy of the tongue. Kalunga. In Bakongo cosmology, Kalunga is the fire force. It emerges complete from within Mungi, the empty circle in existence before creation. Kalunga fires up and releases a storm of projectiles, overrunning the Mungi. Because life would emerge from this event, Kalunga is the source and origin of life and potential, the force that continually generates. Kalunga is also the symbol for force and vitality and a principle of change. Because Kalunga occurred in a cosmic cycle, Kalunga is an idea of immensity and the principal god of change. Kalunga is life. Because Kalunga was the first activity within Mungi, it is force in motion. Therefore, all living things are in perpetual motion. Isn't that exactly what science says? All things are in perpetual motion. Africans figured this out a long time ago. Now, this force Kalunga is actually linked to the Haitian Revolution. If you look in the book Island of Memes or Island of Memes by Wade Nobles, he breaks down how Kalunga was one of the energies they called upon in the Camden Alligator Spark ceremony, which they used to spark the Haitian Revolution. So I always recommend that book to people because not only gives you a historical breakdown of the Haitian Revolution, it gives you a spiritual breakdown as well. My mother Orisha, Yemoja. Waterfalls are spiritually powerful because they embody the energy of a roaring sea, the power of a flowing river, the invigorating potency of a rainfall, and the tranquility of a lake. Mothering qualities that permeate through her and why she is regarded as not only the mother of fish, but the mother of us all. In Western terms, we know this is marine energy. The term marine energy encompasses both wave power and the powers from waves, and tidal power, obtained from the kinetic energy of large bodies of moving water. Offshore wind power is not a form of wind energy. I'm sorry, as marine energy, as wind power is derived from the wind, even if the wind turbines are placed over the water. Oceans have a tremendous amount of energy and are close to many, if not most, concentrated populations. Ocean energy has the potential of providing a substantial amount of new renewable energy around the world. Energy from the ocean is also known as hydroelectricity. And if you read the book Black Africa by Shekinah Job, I believe the subtitle is "An Economic Basis for an African Federated State." He talks about how Africa is rich in marine energy and hydroelectricity. So, although our African ancestors called it something different, we can tap into this as a means of creating power in places in Africa that are having power problems. If you go to West Africa, you know that there are a plethora of power problems. You could be on the computer and the next thing you know, all the lights go out, especially in places like Ghana or, Senegal has this problem sometimes as well. This is why Akon started his project, Lighting Africa, because they've had these problems with energy. So solar energy is one way to go, because I know that Brother Akon did go the route of solar energy. But we can also use hydroelectricity and marine energy to supplement the solar energy. Ajay. Oh boy. Ajay, this is strictly for my sisters right here. Brothers, you can listen, but this ain't for you. Ajay is a Yoruba word that signifies the biological and spiritual power of the Africana woman that has a myriad potential, including but not limited to powers of elemental, biological, and artistic creation, healing, destruction, spiritual and physical development, and fortification, and political organization and empowerment. Teresa in Washington defines Ajay as a force that is beyond definition, but English approximations for Ajay would be power, creation, cosmos, all. So when you're discussing Ajay, Ajay is a spiritual power that is destined for women. In the tradition of Ifa, women are the ones that use this power. And I tell brothers all the time, in African spirituality, women are more powerful than men. If you don't like it, get over it and get out. That's just what it is. It's a matriarchal society. Even though it could be ruled by a man, and usually is, it is the woman that puts the crown, the Ade crown, on your head. If you don't like it, too bad. We need the women, and the women need us. But the power of Ajay is basically the power that fortifies and keeps the community together. You hear it saying artistic creation, healing, or destruction. These are things that can happen out of this power. In the West, women refer to this power as woman's intuition. I don't know why I knew he was cheating. Something told me just check his phone. Well, we call that Ajay. Just some things that are just with the women that women can just do. We don't have a direct connection with this power, and our tradition is more reserved for the woman. So even things as political and organization and empowerment. I've been through many groups and study groups and everything you can think of, Masonic lodges or whatever. Nobody can organize things like our women. That's just something that's with them. And brothers, we just got to let them have that. The Bantu V. This information comes from Dr. Fukiao in the book African Bantu Congo, and he is sharing one of his principles of his tribe from the Congo, from the I believe it's the Leba people. The Bantu V is a reality of constant motion and living energy. Within this reality is Kiliku Congo Golo. This energy is a cognitive process we use every day to collect data and exercise logical thinking. There is also the Kala, which is existence itself. So if you notice, Africans had very practical definitions for these energies. It's not something all in the sky. It's not something, unobtainable. It's not something, that's really mystical. This says exercise logical thinking. Keep your head right. That's basically what it is. It's the energy that keeps your head right, the energy of your consciousness. There's also the Kala, which is existence itself, the energy that permeates through the universe that is existence. It's nothing spooky about that. A lot of times people try to make African spirituality very spooky, and it's not. It's actually very practical. It's actually based on scientific principles. So if we look at Vaika Butaka, sound making energy, doesn't sounds make energy? Doesn't energy make sounds? It's nothing, it's very practical. I laugh when people try to make it something unobtainable or you could never see it, because you see it every day. We just have the words and we don't speak our native language anymore, so we don't know these words. Vanga, which is creative energy. I exercised Vanga when I made this slideshow. Simple. Vunda or Luvemba, the energy of death. We are all going to die one day. That's it. They call that energy Vunda or Luvemba. Simba Simbi. Simba Simbi translates into hold up what holds me up. So it's describing an energy that is holding up us as a people, protons, neutrons, electrons, gases, solid, mass, everything. That's what it's describing. As to Simbi itself, it is a word that translates into three meanings in the Kikongo language: a keeper or a watchover, someone with power to protect, a living power or energy that holds everything up. Simbi can be rendered in the English language as that which holds things up. Simbi is the power behind all life. It is the food or the ingredient to all success. It is the secret behind all growth and development. It is the unseen, the limitless power beyond human imagination. Without it, the concept itself of our expanding universe would not be conceivable. It is a mothering principle that mothers all. Neglected, this core principle of life can become the cause of all failures. Simba Simbi is focusing on the source of living seed energy and standing by one's belief, which are connected to that source. So basically, Simba Simbi is God in the Kikongo tradition. But you notice how they linked it to energy. I didn't write this. I put it in the slide, but I didn't write this description. Heka. Heka is an ancient Egyptian word that meant the action of a complete living force. It was also the name of an Egyptian deity. Yet the word has been confused, misused, and misunderstood because of the distorted perspectives from some Westerners who have claimed that the word Heka is the definition of magic. Now, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm okay with it meaning magic, because I have a scientific perspective of what magic actually is, or what they were trying to describe with magic. But to go on. But that is only part of the story. The word is literally the activating of the Ka. Ka meaning spirit, which goes back to energy. Now, it is true that some Egyptians understood Heka to work by activation of the Ka of a person because the embodied personality of someone's Ka had great power and energy. Yes, everyone's personality carries some types of energy. I think we can all agree to that. It also includes the use of Heka as an activation of the Ka of the gods, the energy of the forces of nature. That's all this is. Heka is that complete living force. It told you in the first paragraph. That living force is energy. So the Egyptians had this concept as well. Now, when I say chi, I don't mean in the Asian sense. I know that the Asian cultures have chi, but this chi comes from the Igbo people in Nigeria. Chi is an aspect of their creator deity, Chukwu or Chila. And because of that, when you break it down, Chi and La and Allah are two separate deities when you break it down like that. So, Chi is the personal spirit of a person in the Igbo culture. It is this spirit that determines one's destiny. So, for my Ifa practitioners, you can think of Chi as an Ori, basically an energy that you were born with. Hence the saying, Onye kwe, Chi ya ekwe. If a person agrees to a thing, his spirit agrees also. And that's pretty much true. If if you agree to go to the store and you like, I'm going to the store, and you get up and you make that decision. It ain't gonna be a part of you that's gonna, well, we not going to the store. No, all of you is going to the store, which includes your energy, which includes your spirit. Culturally, people are seen as the creators or makers of their own destiny. This is similar to the Yoruba concept of Ori. Both of these concepts point to the energy of consciousness, basically divine decision making, thinking with your right mind. Or like your grandmother used to say, being clothed in your right mind. I know mine used to say that for you brothers and sisters from the South. Odu. In the African system of Ifa, it is said that all forces of nature came into being through the manifestation of energy patterns, which they call Odus. The word Odu has been associated with the words matrix or universe. This alludes to these energy patterns' influence in all we can observe as humans. The binary code that exists in computers is based off Odus. Odus describe dual systems of life. The concept behind Odus is everything in the universe leaves an energy signature in which can be read, observed, and detect with a mathematical formula of Odus. And that's basically what all an Odu is. It's a mathematical formula that can tell you about the energy that is around you. So the same way your computer tells you about the energy within inside its console, an Odu does that just like a binary code. Neb Ankh. Now stay with me on this one. Neb Ankh usually translates to Lord of Life, Possessor of Life. It can be used as a title or can refer to one's most prized possession or to the outermost layer of a coffin. Hundreds of years after the Africans in Egypt developed the Neb Ankh, the Greeks referred to it as a sarcophagus, meaning the flesh eater. Thus, Greeks usage removed the ancient meaning of Lord of Life. So what does that really mean? Because we've been discussing this. Lord of energy, possessor of energy, because life is energy. So essentially, when they use the Neb Ankh as a coffin, they're not just holding your physical body. They're holding the energy, which is you, inside of that coffin, which is why the coffin text is so important, which is why the afterlife was so important in the ancient Egyptian faith and in African faith in general, because that energy has to go somewhere, like the law of energy conservation says. When lightning strikes, now let me give you a little bit of information about lightning in Africa. Out of the 1.4 1.4 billion, yeah, that's right, 1.4 billion times that lightning flashes over the earth, a great amount of that energy is spent in the continent of Africa, where the Kifuka or Congo receives 158 lightning bolts per kilometer per year. That's a lot of lightning. Africans exalted this great energy by naming it several deities after this great force. Probably the most popular force is that of Shango. Everybody has probably heard of Shango in this chat room. Shango is everywhere. I mean, in popular culture, in comic books, in movies, in TV shows, and he's probably the most popular Orisha, especially on the male side. Everybody seems to want to be Shango when they go for a read. The energy of Shango has often been cited for its symbol of resistance to enslavement and persecution of the African by European enslavers. A lot of Shango priests were rumored to be some of the fighters against European oppression. Shango is regarded as a king and a symbol of royalty throughout different systems in the diaspora. Other names for this power include Amadioha and Minkisi. And you will find that we deified this lightning energy all over Africa. I just gave two other examples, but we saw this force as a great force. We saw this energy as a great energy, and we named it and we gave it reference. And as you can see, with good reason, since lightning strikes Africa more than any other continent on the planet Earth. Okay, these are four concepts within the Ifa tradition that are very important to evolution, Big Bang, all the scientific principles that you can talk about the creation of our physical universe. Oro. Oro is what we call primordial matter, or the Big Bang. There's also a name for Oludumare called Akamba, which means Big Bang, but we regard Oro as that scientific occurrence. Now, Oro is something that we as humans were not around to see. So, in order for Oro to be visible and digestible to us, in our tradition, it had to transform. So listen to what I'm saying. The energy had to transform, just like science says it does, into Ela. Ela is an invisible energy, but it is detectable, that moves between your Ori and Oludumare. It's conscious energy. We just said that your mind actually produces gigahertz. So this is the energy they're talking about. Ela is thought as an umbilical cord between your consciousness and the creator. Ela is the manifestation of the primordial energies' desire to communicate. Ela makes Oro visible and digestible to humans. So we're all made of solids, liquids, and gases, and all the star stuff, right? That's this energy. The primordial energies before the Big Bang, and how the energies cooled, and they essentially descended to Earth, and then through evolution comes the fishes and the mammals, and then we come after that. We're all connected to that energy. We're describing evolution here for people that say Africans don't believe in evolution. So Owe, how do we worship that Ela and that Oro? We worship it through Owe, which is proverbs, odus, orikis, which are prayers, chants, and ofoshe, talking about it. And we break it down even further to oroko, which are coded symbolic messages. This is where you're talking about your drums and your sculpture, your dance, and your song. Because remember, drumming is not just music in African tradition. Drumming is coded messages, which is why they outlawed drumming in the slave trade, because we were using drum to communicate on when we should, take over and riot. So these are the ways that we honor the Oro and the Eli energy with more energy, because Odus, Arikis, chants, singing, dancing, all that is active energy. So all of this is based off of energy. All of evolution is based off of energy. So these are some names of some quote unquote priests within our traditions that are said to be keepers or guardians of certain types of energies. I would say possessors. You have a Babalao, which is basically the father of mysteries in Ifa, and his female equivalent, the Iyanifa. You have a Haugan, which is a Budan priest, and a Mambo, which is a female priestess in Budan. You have a Saltigu, which is a priest in Senegambia amongst the Afaru tradition. You have a Sangoma, which is a priest within the Zulu tradition. You have a Karihe priest, which comes out of Kemet. The Dibia priest, I can't remember at the current moment which tradition that and the Kumfuman are, but I believe I know they're West Africa, but it escapes me at the current moment. But these contemporary abusums can be thought of as a type of medicine in that they are owned by highly specialized spiritualists who use them as a manipulation of cosmic energy. I put this quote in here by Malefi Asante because he's talking about in the Ghana tradition how abusums, which are like orishas or netters or anything that's a divine force of nature, are thought of as medicine. And that medicine is basically a manipulation of cosmic energy. So change the way you think about healing. It's not some magic pill you take and everything no, it's manipulating your energy. So when you take that aspirin, it's doing something to your energy. When you take those herbs, it does something to your energy. And energy is what I'm trying to drive home in this presentation. We are all energy. Everything is energy. And Africans made it sacred long before Western science came along and told us that everything was sacred within energy. Now, this is what I was alluding to earlier, magic and energy. Any force that appears to have magical qualities that are inexplicable must be considered in the realm of the divine. These powers are often like energy, abstract and invisible. Results are visible. So when that wind comes along, it blows all your papers all over the floor. You didn't see that wind coming, but that energy knocked everything off. Is that magic? Because according to this definition, it is. It's invisible, but it has visible results. See, magic gets a bad rap because I don't think people actually read the definition of magic. It is therefore not individualized or specialized in terms of a particular object, such as one finds in animism. Now, when you see the term animism, that's code for African spirituality, because they call it the animistic period, in which they said we worshiped animals. So like Heru is a hawk, and so on and so forth. So that's code for African spirituality, if you didn't know. So, such as one finds in animism, but it is rather more generalized belief as an invisible, powerful, impersonal energy that is everywhere. That sounds like regular energy. There's nothing about that sounds spooky to me. There are several ways of viewing magic. From the standpoint of an African philosophy, it assists in the psychologizing of another person to feel, say, or see whatever one wants him or her to experience. You may also see magic as a social agent where people actually see what is taking place because a priest or magician controls the forces of nature. This means the priest or magician must study the forms of energy in the universe and understand the nature of climate, recognize the functions and forms of material objects, and appreciate how the manipulation of these forces impacts humankind. Thus, as the intellect of a divinity or spirit, the operator becomes a priest, serving the purposes of the spirit. That sounds like a scientist. You have to study and recognize the functions and forms of material objects. That sounds like a scientist. There's nothing spooky about that. That's what scientists do. They study energy. They just use microscopes and other equipment to do essentially the same thing. Humans and energy. As for the nature of a human being, African religion does not promote the theory of the resurrection of the body. However, the human being is viewed as a set of concentric layers that include matter and spirit without any opposition among them. It is this view of being that explains the legendary tales about humans who can transform themselves into lions or those who fly in the air. The notion as being a set of energy in constant vibration remains perhaps the fundamental hermeneutical device that sheds light on the African ontology and the specificity on the African mode of being religious. Now, we all have our myths, we all have our, he transformed into this, he flew in the air, blah, 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 blah. But what you need to gain from that is that we're concentric layers that include matter and energy. Africans knew that. They may have told tales about it, but Africans knew that we were energy at the end of the day and that we weren't our physical body. They knew that thousands of years ago. The Pakongo person, or a Muntu, somewhere Rob Bourne, Alan Brown is smiling, is a living energy being and a physical being. Therefore, the Muntu is a complex, a pattern of patterns, or principle of principles in being. Muntu is distinguished in creation because Muntu have Moleda Ningindu, or a dual soul mind. The Melela Ngintu has experiences at each moment of the sun. That's constant through African tradition. So when they say a dual soul mind, when Christianity talks about, you have a soul and a spirit, when the Egyptians talk about the Ba and the Ka, this is what they're describing. Basically, you are living energy. You are a pattern of patterns, a system within systems. You're not just your body. Universal energy view. Because African ontological systems revolve around the core concepts of spirits as the vital universal energy that embodies all living and non-living things, humans and nature alike, their holistic concept of balance and harmony demands a sense of agency on the part of every human being, as well as his or her own responsibility towards the community that gives a sacred or religious dimension to his or her respect for the spirits. So Africans worship energy. That's it. Africans worship energy. And that energy is a specific and important part of their community. Because they understand without energy, we are not going to be here. Colors. Colors in general can have a profound effect on the human emotion, state, mind, and spirit, because they are visual energy radiating from spectrums of light. Volumes of complex scientific research have been carried out for years on the subject of colors to support the fact that humans feel and react to various color spectrums of light wavelengths that register on the human eye and the brain's light photoceptors. For example, reflect on the emotional effect of viewing a large arcing rainbow across a brilliant blue sky after a rainstorm. Gazing at a botanical garden overflowing with exotic multicolored flowers and looking out at a gathering of African people descent dressed in bright colored dashikis, robes, and dresses. The science of chromatics often attempts to find answers to the questions surrounding human color perception and reactions. Scientifically, the color white is the fusion of all the colors of the visible light spectrum. Technically, white is not a true color, but an achromatic like black because it has no hue. However, in the art and spirituality of color, interpretations, uses, and myths, white has positively affected and elevated people of African descent and humans in general, spiritually, emotionally, and socially for thousands of years. But white can be a controversial color in some Western cultures, as can the colors red and black. For example, red is associated with uncontrollable anger, aggressive sexual energy, senseless violence, and Native American people. Black is aligned with bad, lowest level, ugly, and African descendants. White is linked with good, purity, beauty, and European descendants. Colors, like other aspects and elements of a society, can be politically and culturally defined or infused with a belief system. So I said all that to say some of your preconceived notions with these colors got to go if you're going to practice African spirituality. Because we don't have the same concepts for these colors. One of the most powerful deities, Obatala, he's draped in white, he sleeps in white, he wakes in white. But they're not talking about white people. They're talking about the color. And the color means something in their culture. Just like the color black means something in another culture. The color red means something in another culture. But these Western notions that we put on these colors, they're not present in African spirituality. So I say that to say colors are basically forms of energy. And that those colors, they invoke a certain type of energy out of people. Some people get mad when they see red. You know, it is what it is. But this is an actual science that called chromatics that they're actually attempting to decipher and see the effects on the human brain. So that concludes my presentation. And this is some of my references. You can pause the video. You can write them down. You can take a picture. And that is the end of my slideshow. I hope you learned something. I hope you there was something that caught your eye, something that made you wonder, something that made you think differently. Of course, I will always, take questions from the chat. I see my beautiful wife is in the chat. Hello, sexy. Oh, but thank you all for coming out and taking the time with me to go through this. This was a very tedious presentation. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of what you mean? Oh God, Shesmu is in here. Oh God, what do you want, man? What do you mean I kept too many secrets? What's the problem now? Goodness gracious, man. Shesmu ain't gonna let you make it, y'all. He ain't gonna let you make it. Shesmu gonna be on you all the time. That's just what he does. Whenever I see him in the chat, I know he gonna be on me. But Mossi Warrior Clan up, man. Yes, Sean, I am dropping the article. I'm going to post it on my website immediately after this broadcast. And to give you, dang, let me see if I can share my screen one more time to give you a little sneak peek of the article. If this thing will work. Okay, it's working. Let me put it on desktop. Screen sharing. Can everybody see my screen? Somebody just give me a yes if you can see the article. Somebody in the chat room just give me a yes if you can see the article, or a no, or something. I guess, I don't know if y'all can see it or not. Okay, Brother Kendall said yes. This is the article, Character, the Vital Force of African Culture and Traditions by myself. And it's not a terribly long article, but it is an article worth reading. I will be putting that article on my website, which is www.blakpanthaser.com. That's BlakPanthaSahara.com. I'm reading Shezmood question. How to do, because, okay, see, and you know the answer to this. I can't teach you how to incorporate this in your life because, number one, I'm not qualified to teach you how to incorporate this in your life. I'm not an Orisha priest. I'm not a Babalawo. I am an Egungun priest. So if you need help in ancestral elevation, then I will do that. But as you know, in anything in African spirituality, you must be initiated or go through certain rites to learn certain things. And that's just the way our tradition goes. So if you're bad enough or curious enough to ask the question, you need to be bad enough or curious enough to go find your Babalawo and go get those questions answered. No, I'm not teaching you no chants. I will teach you greetings, but that's about it. And especially if you live in Atlanta, ain't no excuse. I can definitely put you in contact with somebody of many traditions. We have Akan practitioners in Atlanta. We have Voodoo practitioners in Atlanta. If you're Spanish, we have Santeria practitioners in Atlanta. If you're interested in Ifa, we have Ifa practitioners in Atlanta. So if you're anywhere close to Atlanta, definitely holler at me on Facebook and I can put you in the right direction. Shouts out to my godfather, Odun Ogulanu. He's in Cuba right now filming a movie about Shango. So hopefully that'll be coming out soon and I can promote that. But if there are no more questions from the chat room, oh, peace, brother Ron. That brother puts out some good information on Facebook. But if there's no more questions from the chat, I'm going to shut it down. I appreciate y'all coming out. I appreciate y'all listening. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. And my duty from my ancestors is to lead you back to your traditions. So I'm going to give you more and more of the traditions as much as I can without violating any taboos or anything like that, until you all come back to your tradition. So get used to hearing my voice and seeing my face, and that's just what I'm going to do. Mossi Warrior Clan, we focus on Inner Africa and West Africa, different aspects. We got brother Shabazz that does the Moorish history. We got brother Sean that's digging into the transatlantic slave trade from different aspects. And I'll tell you this, if you haven't seen the Portuguese, the Prey of the Portuguese presentation by brother Sean, Ini Harat, it's on this channel. It's only about 40 minutes. Take about 40 minutes of your time and watch it because you'll learn some things that you didn't know. We got brother Amin Ma'at Ra that covers African culture and compares it to other cultures. He's got 4 books out right now. 4. So get in touch with that brother Amin Ma'at Ra on Facebook and get some of his books. We got brother Nahisi that approaches African culture from a scientific perspective. We got brother, it's so many members now. You know, this used to only be a 3-member team. So now I don't want to forget nobody. You know, all the Mossi Warriors, man. I appreciate y'all, man. I appreciate the work y'all put in. Brother Kofi's coming up. He's studying, man. He's studying different traditions. He's going to different cultures and putting together presentations about them. I appreciate that, brother. Fortune favorite. I appreciate that brother always being a loyal brother. All the Mossi Warriors, man. We appreciate you. I appreciate you. And we're going to keep rocking, man. Spirits is flying. Pseudos is crying. I'm Blak Panther, and I'm out.